Okay, so today I'm going to react to even more YouTube videos, but I kind of I collected a couple that I had seen like yesterday or over the last couple of days that are kind of a little more deep and existential in thought, and so that I'll kind of analyze them and kind of tell you what they are, right? So this is kind of more of a pre-planned thing. There's going to be a couple of these at least that I should look at, so okay, I'll sort of analyze and maybe contradict. Okay, so this one is just like a random hashtag stoic mindset, hashtag success. So it's not really much of a video, but it's just a quote. Masculine Hub says, a wise person once said, I took a pig, I bathed it, I helped it, but in the end it still went back to the mud because that's its place. Few people will get this. And I know probably the intended interpretation is like, oh, don't try to help people, right, that don't want to be helped kind of a thing, but my interpretation is actually different, or the absolutist subjective way of looking at it could be different. You're taking a pig from nature, from its natural habitat, from the wild, from where it already is, from where it arguably chooses to be. So maybe it's at peace with that, maybe it's fine with that, right, but you're trying to dress it up and let it acquiesce to your standards, like, oh, we're going to control you, but it's for your own good, right? That's like the benevolent mindset of empires and stuff. Benevolent hegemony, or however I forget how you say it, but yes, of course, we're going to conquer these lands so that these savages can be more civilized. Like, you're the one who's doing that. So again, the interpretation is, oh, don't try to help people, right, that don't want to be helped. But this is deeper, like, you're taking the pig out of its natural habitat, you're bathing it, you say you're helping it, but like you're doing something that it could have bathed itself if it wanted to. It could have found water, it could have, that you're imposing something on it that you think is for its own good, but how do you know that? You can't assume its intention. It's doing what it wants to do, or what it chooses to do, right? So you're injecting your own standard and going outwardly, it might be perfectly happy. It's the same thing of like, if you were to change somebody's diet, like, oh, you take away alcohol and cigarettes and sugar and stuff like that, but maybe that's what they want. Now you say, oh, that would help their lifespan, but that you can't really argue that, because that's what I call half-mass hedonism. Maybe that's exactly what they want, so how can you assume their intent? Even if you say it's for their own good, they're choosing it, so how can you force them? But in the end, it still went back to the mud because that's its place. That's the place it chose to be. That's the place, it might be naturally content, so what right do you have to force it out of its natural state into something else just because you consider it better, right? Maybe it doesn't want to take a bath. Maybe that's its form of bath is mud. We can't understand that as humans, but if it's content with that, then what's the problem, right? So that's the imposition that you're kind of taking from a benevolent standpoint, that, oh, we're doing it for its own good, we're doing it to help it. Right, that's always how humans justify empires and spread. Like, oh, we're doing it in the name of manifest destiny, or we're doing it in the name of some, white man's burden or something. They'll try to frame it as something positive, but the end result is you're ultimately just going in foreign lands and killing people and taking their stuff, right? And it's like, there's nothing that really justifies that, or, right, so you're trying to make it seem more than, no, you're just going for conquest. That's it. That's all you're doing. Right, but you don't want to admit that. So here, again, you feel so self-righteous that you are going to take something from its natural habitat. You're going to abduct it. You're going to kidnap it. You're going to take it away from where it naturally is. You're going to bathe it. You're going to impose something on it. You're going to act like you're doing it a favor. But you can't understand. Maybe that's what it wants. Maybe it's at peace. It's choosing to do what it wants, and that shouldn't bother you because it's at peace with itself. It's not telling you what to do, but you're telling it what to do, right? That, again, you could look at this as the minimalist person too, like, oh, look at this person living in their car, sleeping on the ground, and you'll assume, oh, it's because they don't have money. Meanwhile, they can have millions of dollars, but maybe that's what they want. This is the thing, like, you can't assume what somebody wants. Maybe they're at peace with that. Maybe they don't care about material things, right? And they're not doing it to prove a point the way that, society would frame everything. So that was clip number one. This one is like in a line of clips that are like, somebody explained something and then they went missing. Nobody saw him after this moment. And I feel like there's a few too many of these kind of clips, so that makes it seem clickbaity. But this is, he explained how we do not truly own anything. and it's from like, I can't even read it, 2.6 million views 8 days ago. This man exposes how we do not truly own anything, and ever since making this video, he hasn't been seen at all. 1933. But it looks way too clear to be 1933. It's in color and it's in, what do you mean? Oh no, he's just talking about 1933. I thought it was saying like the video itself is shot in 1933. Like how? But no, I saw some of this. So let's see what he says. Okay. 1933 is when they started monetizing us and pledging us as collateral for the debt. Register means to abandon. Okay, so let me maybe I should watch it once and then react, but I've kind of already saw it. So, you know, it is true. I always say, you know, society holds you down by your possessions and tries to control you. Everything is kind of a concession, right? Nobody really owns nature, so that's kind of the way I would say it. But, you know, register also just means, I get the point that he's making though. Like, register, you as an individual are, you know, a free and variable being who can do many things and think many things, and, you know, you can do, you're not defined by one thing. But society wants to label you so it can put you in a box and control you and all that. So yeah, he's saying to register is to basically give up control. The word register means to abandon, retain equitable title. Or yeah, it's kind of the way that you, because like even the land itself, right, you have to pay taxes. So right, so even though you own the house, you own the land, but you still pay taxes to the government for something you already own, or like inheritance tax and stuff. But even deeper than that, it's the situation where like, let's pretend you don't own anything, they'll still try to get you because, oh, you have to buy food at a grocery store because it's monopolized by, nature itself is monopolized by big corporations. You could go out and try to hunt and fish for yourself, but there'll be so many barriers to that. You need a permit, you need, like, again, that overextends, and you say the pretense of society and structure and control is in the name of some greater good or protection or benefit, but the reality is much more overextended than that, because it's not just about like stopping people from killing each other, it's about stopping a person from being free ultimately, because a random dude can't go out in the woods and pick berries or fish or hunt, which really isn't bothering anybody in any meaningful way. But if one person does it, everybody can do it, and then you don't need society anymore. And it's like, why does society prevent that, right? We can do a social experiment. A random dude goes out in the woods and hunts and fishes and lives off that, and it's not hurting anybody really. You can try to extrapolate, but not any more than corporations ravaging the land and doing all, you know, that to an extreme degree. One random individual doing it isn't hurting anybody, but freedom cannot be allowed is basically what it means, right? You cannot allow freedom. So yeah, your mortgage says you're a tenant. I keep pausing it, but not the owner. And even if you do own the house, you still pay taxes. Maritime Admiralty salvage laws. So like, whatever, they can adopt a child, they can adopt your car, like take over your car. I mean, it certainly gives them power over that. So there is like an expression I have, like $1 outside of the system might be worth 100 times more than $1 in the system, because at least, or not even so much money, but just whatever resources. There's like a minimalist king ideation that I wrote with that, like, you know, it would be worth so much more because it's truly yours and it's truly free. Although some people might argue in a temporal sense, like, you might not know the difference, right? Yes, if you do something objectionable, then the government might take everything, and, you know, that's how currency works, right? Or like Bitcoin or something. It could just go to zero tomorrow, right? The US dollar could go to zero tomorrow. All your money in the bank could just disappear tomorrow. That could happen. You know, everything's guaranteed until you really need it. Oh, you're FDIC insured. But then as soon as some major tragedy happens, everybody needs their money, there's not, you know, it's not going to be there, right? So when you really need it, they won't have it because everybody will be clamoring for it. So in reality, that's what you're doing. You're deferring control to something in a way that is questionable. Right, so this kind of suspension of disbelief that you just suspension of critical thought. You just kind of accept it, even though you know its flaws, and you can be aware of the nature of the larger process. But is this how atheist thinks? By the Cross Crusader. Again, I get triggered by some of these, how stupid they are, because you're talking to an atheist and find out this is how they think Christianity started. So again, I saw some of this. Basically, I'll lay out the premise before I even play it again. It's going to be like, oh, all these people had to be in on it together. Now, never mind the fact that the Bible itself is a collection. It's not a singular work made by one person, which is sometimes used to its credit, but it's a collection of works by various people. So this notion, oh, it's some conspiracy where people got together and pick and choose what they want to put in. But that's literally what happened. That is factually what happened, because it's not one person writing it at one time. It's a bunch of collected work from different people. So it doesn't mean that, oh, they were all in on it together in a conspiracy. It means that the people putting it together are trying to find meaning in that. Like, they could have just excluded one if they wanted to, or they could have just included whatever they want. So they're taking collections from a long period of time. So like, that would be like me. I can pick and choose different quotes from different people throughout history and make my own book and say, oh, look, this has Alexander the Great and it has this guy and that guy. And it's like, so you're picking and choosing. So it's not really all that credible there, because, right, you're kind of creating whatever you want. And again, I can say the same question to this is how Christians think that every other religion started. Like, oh, everybody must be in on it, right? Otherwise Christianity must be true. But what do Christians think then of Hinduism and of, other religions, whatever? I don't want to single out, but like Judaism or whatever, Islam. What do Christians think about that? Oh, it's all made up, or oh, it's all, those must be a conspiracy, but not this one. So let's see what they say. We need 100% participation. Jesus is dead. We're going to steal his body. I mean, this sounds pretty basic, like steal his body and then say he came back from the dead. But they didn't necessarily know that they were going to get brutally murdered. Go to heaven for it. What do we get out of it? You go to heaven. You're going to be hated, reviled, and persecuted. Kind of sounds like you're ridiculing atheists here. So, all right. So basically, what I'm saying is, what's that? I will use that cui bono effect, I call it, against that too. What do you get for being a Christian? Oh, you go to heaven and your soul lives forever and it's a perfect place and everything is perfect, right? And people you don't like or things you consider wrong go to hell. Like, so you do have something to benefit from it, right? That's how they lure you in. Oh, you'll go to heaven and blah, blah, blah. What does an atheist have to gain? Assuming that you even use that label, which I really reject that label, but what did they get out of it? Nothing, right? You're just looking at objective reality and that is what it is. And then you decide from there about what to do. But I don't see what you get out of it. You could argue in a contrivance response sense that, like, oh, it gives you the permission to do things that you can do inherently anyway, like, oh, things that'll be considered sinful or bad. But that's, again, false inherent contrivance response. The outward position is telling people not to do those things that they're inherently capable of doing. So that's not even a valid claim, because it'd be like, oh, you wouldn't believe in God because you want to justify doing something, hedonistic acts or orgies or, whatever, something that would be condemned by God. But that only assumes the validity of God in the first place, or religion, or whatever standard, right? That's something that you're inherently capable of doing, which even in that premise, God created you with the ability to do that thing. So you'd have to talk around that. Like, well, I always hear this, like, God gave us free will. Well, if he gave us free will, then that's kind of him giving us the green light that we can do whatever he allows us to do, right? And if he didn't want us to do it, then let him stop us instead of a person stopping us. So the point being that, this fallacy of, oh, you're doing it to justify something. First of all, you might not have any such thing that you could attribute. Somebody could live a perfectly, acceptable life by your religion anyway. But never mind that, like, as if you have to justify things that you're inherently already capable of doing, rather than the outward position being telling you not to do things that you're inherently capable of doing, right? So that's not like a position, that's just a reality. Like, whether you believe in God or not, okay, people have the ability to do all these things that God supposedly doesn't want them to do, like hurting each other, killing each other. So then it comes down to us to have to enforce that. So why does he matter then? That would be what Christians have to think, right? God is all powerful and doesn't want us to do certain things, but allows us to do them anyway. And then it comes down to subjective people stopping or allowing that to happen. So he's all powerful, and then you're even personifying him and attaching some intention and saying he's all powerful. And so if somebody, think about it this way, if you were all powerful and you didn't want something to happen, it's just little common sense here, wouldn't you stop that thing from happening? No, you allow people to do it for the majority of their history. And I mean, it's nothing more than just, again, egotism, like reinforcement of human standards, like whatever, the same way we have laws, but it's just a way to make those things seem above and beyond, and like the world revolves around us and we're so important. But what it is the fact that, yeah, like, so you can ridicule that. So like, but yeah, what do atheists really get out of it? I don't understand that. The freedom to do things that they can already do, that you're telling them not to do, in your not absolute faith anyway, right? So again, you're assuming in the premise of that you're already right. So if you're already right, and there already is a God, and their standards are already absolute, even though they're not enforced by God at all, then, okay, you're doing it to spite that and justify it, right? It's a very strange perspective because, so this person who's born with the ability to do all of these things, whatever you might consider bad or things that you say you shouldn't do based on God or whatever, they're born with the ability to do that thing, and you're telling them not to do that thing, and so they wouldn't believe in God just so that they can do that thing, but they could have done that thing anyway. So absolute, so now you're denying or defying God just so you can justify sinful actions or supposedly bad things. But it's not so much that you have to justify them, it's that society contrivance would have to rationalize, why is this being restricted? And a lot of things wouldn't have a good reason. There's a few that you could, agree on a basic level, like a golden rule. Okay, you're not going to hurt people because you don't want to be hurt yourself. Right? That's easy enough to understand, but it goes way beyond that, especially within the stimuli acne. So I think that was pretty stupid. I mean, so again, if a collection of people pretend something that makes it true, and if they're subject to negative things that, maybe they knew that was going to happen, maybe they didn't, but so what, like, people have never fought throughout history for something that was imaginary or put themselves at risk for something, right? That, like, even think of Jesus, he could be an intellectual leader like Gandhi or somebody like that. So it could be a similar thing, like, okay, we're doing this. So it doesn't make you God just because people are loyal to you and would be willing to die for you. So that doesn't make you God, but that just means you're a figure who people look up to, right? That could be still valid. Because if every figure that people looked up to or were willing to fight for, die for, was a god, then there'd be a lot of gods going around. So, but yeah, that would be what I would love to hear. You can make fun of that, like, what do people think of Christianity? But what do Christians think of every other religion in existence? Pagan gods or what? Or the Greek gods or this? Like, you'd have to talk around every single one as to why those are not valid and yours are, right? Whereas it's more consistent to just say they're all part of the same psychological process that you are controlled by, or that, is used to control people. Okay, let's look at this one. The truth about the system they created, 32 seconds, by what channel is it? It's the same one as one of the other ones before. She exposes how the system is designed to use you, not to serve you. The system wasn't built for you to win. You went to school to memorize. Well, let me say my own quote on this sort of subject, though, before I even listen. Basically, I say everything mass-produced suffers inequality for it, even human life itself. So it is true, like, you know, public education or something like that, or even like the food you eat, like fast food and things like this, right? Everything that you do is not meant to be of the highest quality, right? The intention is not for that education in public school to be the best education possible. It's meant to be that which is best, easiest to mass produce, right, to the most number of people. Same thing with the food you eat, same thing with everything. But everything is mass produced and about that collective scale, number one, and then quality comes after that, right? So even by design, it's not quality that you're after, right? And you would know that, but people sort of pretend or insist upon it. Let's see, the system wasn't built for you to win. In school, to memorize facts you never use. Let me react to each statement, okay? That's not entirely true. I mean, there are some useful things you learn in school, but I get it. There's a certain obedience to authority. You were trained to raise your hands, wait your turn, follow instructions, defer to unqualified empirical authority, is how I would describe it. Get a job, work 40 hours a week. I mean, again, this is how a system of a mass number of people is controlled, right? So by design, it's not going to be something that's in the highest quality, but half of it to tax and retire at 67 if you're lucky. That's not a life, that's a script. Most people don't question it because they're too tired from living it. That's a very good quote. Once you see it, you cannot see it. Freedom was never going to be handed to you. I thought there was something else I wanted to say with that, but basically, it's a valid thing, but it's also like, it's the way that it would have to be, right, for a collective mass of people, because if everybody was free and thinking, then you wouldn't have this uniformity anyway, and that's what I always say, like, it would never, if people thought objectively about everything, it would never lead to, like, one uniform state. It would, you were very minimalistic, or you know, you can minimize it. It would be very hard to escape it altogether, but you can minimize it. Like, you don't want anything, you don't need anything, you don't care about material things. I don't know, I feel like there's another clip that I was gonna say something about. The stupidest story ever told. What is this? Something to do with the Bible. I didn't get this because she's a Christian. She seems like a Christian, but she's making fun of it too. Like the Bible or Noah's Ark thing. Or maybe it was this one. Alright, let me look at this one first. Yeah, this is the one that I had some issue with. There's like a lot of these is some nuance. Like I agree with most of it, but oh god, and disappeared again. Everybody disappears. Am I gonna disappear after making this? This girl disappeared after decoding. Meanwhile, it has millions of views on YouTube. So I mean, if you were really hell bent on covering it up, I mean, this girl disappeared after decoding the system we were enslaved by. She revealed the truth about the system. There's a few things in here that contradict, and there's a similar clip actually that I wanted to see that was like some AI generated thing about like how would the devil corrupt modern society, but it makes a mistake in there that there's one thing, or there's a few things that are actually good, right, that would be bad for that point that it's making. So the same thing here. I'll try to find that clip too. So again, minute 24, and it is, this girl disappeared after decoding system we're enslaved by. The best way to gain control, the most intelligent, powerful species on the planet, would be to completely divide them. So like tribalism and stuff. Force them into a system. It's wrong to be yourself. And even like how you do, okay, I'll pause it. Like even the way you define yourself is like the human variable. There is, you know, even casting an identity onto a person is itself flawed. Like a human being is capable of countless infinite things, just like your mind is capable of infinite objective thought. So there is no identity, there is no, so even what she's saying there is still misguided. Like, oh, be afraid of being yourself if yourself is different, but there is no real one self that you can just pigeonhole and define. That's how society tries to control you and frame you, but there is no such thing, right? Freedom would be, you can do anything at any time. Right, so that's more how you're controlled, but as the individual, you'd have no use for that. From moment to moment, you can do something different. You can think different things. You can do different things. Right, so that's like the notion of hypocrisy or something like that. That you have to define somebody fully by some myopic fragment of what they do. is like, you do one thing, like is this example again of the minimalist king, the lazy king as I call him, where like at one point he was labeled everything in existence, right? One time he's lazy, one time he's selfish, one time he's this, he's that, he's this psychological condition. They try to label him a million different things, even many of which are contrary to each other, right? So that says more about the observer than what is observed. How can you be all those labels at once, right? So it's not relevant. It's more like their need to try to control or dismiss him rather than anything by reality. So the self, I call it the human variable. The self cannot be limited or defined in such a way. So, okay, let me look at it again. The best way to gain control over them, let me try to answer it myself versus what she's saying. The best way to control people is to, again, bypass their critical thinking, make them think it's their own idea, appeal to their ego, right? Associate gratification with toleration of a contrivance state, which by that logic, okay, we should be in a more subversive state like World War II Germany or China right now, and therefore you'd feel more gratified for doing that. Would be to completely divide them. Tribalist, like, I'll say it this way, okay. This is one of my things I say, like, how people are skeptical. This is what I call rule by omission protocol in all my debates, right? People would be skeptical of the individual. So like if I'm walking around or, oh, whatever, performative aspects are lacking or whatever, right? They'll be suspicious. Oh, this guy looks weird or whatever, right? And they'll project negative intention constantly of each other on an individual basis. But then somebody, some big CEO sitting up in a mansion somewhere, they're out of sight, out of mind. So you don't attach that to when you go grocery shopping. You're not thinking about that person. Right, you're blaming on the cashier, blaming on something. So if you just stay out of sight, out of mind, it's like it doesn't exist, right? That's where the ego and the initial perception controls people, because that could be the worst person ever, that CEO, but you don't know, or you're not thinking about that. So you reward them for their, again, putting that separation buffer and stuff like that, ruling by omission. So versus, again, somebody in front of you. If somebody in front of you, you'll judge everything they do. Somebody out of sight, out of mind, they're perfect until, you know, whatever, something comes to your attention. So, okay, of who they are, force them into a system that teaches that is wrong to be yourself. And again, okay, even I'm kind of cooking in a different direction than even what she's saying, but whatever. I'll just use it as an excuse to talk about what I do anyway. Like, even what is normal? What is normal defined? Oh, you're all indoctrinated by the same contrivance state, or you're all exposed to the same influence. Then you take pride in it, and oh, that's relatable, and this and that. So, like, would that really be something you desire? Like, normalcy just means you're easy to control. It's just another word for mediocrity. So even, I'm going a lot deeper than what she's saying, but whatever. It's different from what is accepted as normal. It's kind of like the non-basic self-ego insistence, as I call it. Like, for example, you would say, you know, people insist upon it just because they're already exposed to it. So you could expose them, and you see this throughout history. I call it the stigma effect. Basically, you could expose them to anything and they'll insist upon it just because. So there's no real meaning to it, right? Like, again, World War II Germany or China right now, anything. So they're not really credible. So that definition of normalcy is just non-choice reaction. You're just kind of insisting upon it. But no, let's see. About their own biological makeup, or that they think permanently altering their body is the answer to happiness. Although that I would kind of argue with, like, that's one of the many freedoms we can have. We can choose to alter whatever we want if we really want. So, I mean, arguably, not that you should feel like you have to do it, but if it, you know, the same way we have surgeries, we have all kind of different things we do to our bodies. You know, that choice isn't necessarily a bad thing if you want to choose that, but make them focus only on the information that is provided. Make them attend the institution from age 5 until an adult. Repeatedly test them on the information so that it becomes their truth. Yeah, see, this is a good line. Like, give them like a supposed answer to everything, so you obey authority and stuff like that. You don't question the world around you or objectively observe it. So it's kind of like what I call like the false absolute. Like, everything is absolute, and then it's just a matter of distracting yourself so you don't think about it with entertainment, escapism, or like overcompensating for it with hedonism or whatever else, and then So it's absolute, but it requires all these prerequisites. It requires you to censor reality, like, oh, your love of your life and stuff and like that. But then, oh, you can't watch adult films, or you can't be friends with people of the same gender, right? You have to censor reality itself. And so I'm sort of just turning this into my own thing, but whatever. Again, I'm going a lot deeper than what she's talking about, but whatever. There was something I took major issue with that she said here, so I want to see that. Then we'll look at the Bible thing, and then we'll look at the other one. Try to find that clip. It's like the AI said, what would you do if you were the devil? But a few of those things were really stupid and actually misguided. I think it's coming up here, though. Scold them and humiliate them if they suggest an opinion that opposes that of authorities. And I'll explain that from an absolutist point of view, like, even by the same standard, right? So like, people would be ridiculed, like, oh, you're a nerd, or you're studying too hard, but isn't that the point of school? So if it's not, then don't bother with it, or if it is, then do it all the way, instead of you attach an ego and you do it at half-mast. So it's like, you could show up the system that same way. Like, they use a pretense to control you, but then if you do that pretense too well, then it exposes them, because, oh, like, we value other people. Oh, so we value other people, so let's stop living in this society and give up everything, and give up 2 meals a day, and give up modern luxuries and conveniences so that we can help people all around the world. Like, if you really take it far enough, then, but no, it'll be used as a pretense, like recycle a bottle and, oh, that'll save the planet. Meanwhile, the entire society you live in is, keep reminding them of how cruel their ancestors were. Okay, this is where you're wrong. This is where she's absolutely wrong. So hang on. This is kind of makes the opposite point, because, again, you're talking about a system you're enslaved by. So this one doesn't make any sense, and actually kind of makes the opposite point. So hang on. This is what I call the stigma effect yet again. Like, all of human history would indicate that people are not credible. Both the public mass of people isn't credible. They're easily controlled. They'll go along with anything if you give them bread and circuses, etc. And then the structure itself, the power structure, is also not credible. It's been mostly tyrannical and exploitative and whatever. So the thing that you have to realize is the fact that, hold on, I want to get somewhere where I can actually stop for a second. But basically, yeah, like, so in a way that would keep it in check. So let me clown this one statement. This doesn't make opinion that opposes their authorities. Keep reminding them of how cruel their ancestors were to each other in the past, and broadcast how cruel they are to each other in the present. That is actually a bad argument, because it's more about the myopic framing of, oh, look at an individual doing something bad, rather than look at somebody in a high position of imperial authority doing something bad. But like, think about that statement. Broadcast how people are cruel to each other throughout history, especially governments, etc. Wouldn't that make more sense? There's two ways to interpret that. You can say, well, people are cruel to each other, that's why we need protection from the government or whatever from each other. But the other framing of it is, oh, look how cruel people were to each other, that's why we should be skeptical of authority and not have kings and not have leaders and not for so many atrocities and genocide and this and that throughout history. So therefore, oh, we shouldn't trust people in positions of authority, especially. We shouldn't trust systems and governments. We shouldn't, you could say trust each other would be the way it's framed to try to control people. But, like, it would apply to the structure as well. So that's kind of an odd claim to make in this context. Let me hear it again. Keep reminding them of how cruel their ancestors were to each other, how cruel they are to each other now. But that would leave reason, again, to doubt people. As I always say, like, structure and society exists under the premise that people ought to be restrained, right? That they're not to be trusted, that their nature is bad or whatever. So, and then to that end, we empower people, those same people with that same nature, we empower them to achieve that, to try to uphold that. The problem with that is that those same people are subject to that. So it's like you try to create this thing, cult of personality, the anointed or whatever, that they're somehow better. But, right, like, again, those same people are empowered to the end of restricting people. So that's an inherent contradiction that, oh, people are bad inherently, or they have like a negative nature, and then you empower those same people to the end of controlling them. So people have to be restrained. So what do we do to solve that? We empower those people instead of restraining them so that they can restrain everybody else, and we expect that there wouldn't be a problem. That's what I call being aware of the nature of the larger process. Like, you can see why that would not work out, but people do it anyway. So that one I strongly disagree with. She's trying to attack my stigma effect without even her knowing what that is, or, the way I've explained it. But again, knowing that people have been cruel to each other throughout history doesn't mean that, we need government to save us from each other or something like that. It means that we shouldn't trust people, period, especially government, especially authority, especially organized, empirical structure. We shouldn't trust those things. We shouldn't take them too seriously. We shouldn't rely on them too much, if at all. Right, because, people have been cruel to each other, and a lot of that is atrocities, a lot of that is from government, etc., power. So shouldn't that lead to skepticism? We shouldn't support this current system or any system because we see how cruel people are to each other. That hurts human credibility. Why would we trust any leader or any government when we've seen how throughout history the majority of them have been all, tyrannical and exploitative and stuff like that? So that one would more so make you doubt the system. Only show them tragedies on the news so that they live in fear and think the worst of one another. But that kind of contradicts the bread and circuses thing. No, you might show them a cute dog video or something to try to distract them. But let me see again what she says. And broadcast how cruel they are to each other in the present. Only show them tragedies on the news. Live in fear. This one I find... These two I take issue with. Convince them that their ancestors were wild animals, basically, that we come from animals. Well, objectively, we are animals, and that would free us from control in that sense, right? You would, some of this is internal framing that she's even doing, so she's missing the point somewhat of even her own, what the subject of this is. Saying that human beings are animals might seem like a negative at first, but it would actually free people and say, okay, we're animals, therefore we can't be held down by these lofty things. We're animals, so we're free in nature. We can do whatever we want in nature. So you need a good reason to restrict us, and everything is a choice. There is no absolute, there is no God, there is none of that. So what it would mean is basically, it might sound like a bad thing. She's saying, convince us that our ancestors are wild animals, but they are. They were, and we even are animals too, with just slightly greater intelligence. So as I say, from my absolutist perspective, what defines humanity? It's not the heart, it's not the soul, it's the mind, it's the ability to think. So then we would define everything by thought and logic and reason, accountability, critical thinking, objectivity, right? And therefore act on that. So the point is that, why would that be used as a tool to enslave you? That would be used to free you, like, okay, you're an animal, so you're free. And there's no basis for one animal to control another. Right, there's no empirical high horse, there's no God, there's nothing right above you. Yes, we're all animals, therefore everything is an artificial process to control you, right? You're being tamed and trained like an animal, right? This would help you see all of that. So these claims are kind of losing the script a little bit. And their species used to be that of an incognizant wild animal. Again, even though that is true, and I don't see why that would be a bad thing, right? Again, it's sort of the other framing that, we're made in the image of God, and therefore we must behave a certain way because of that. And then that's used to control people, right? And say, okay, now you have to do this because God says so, and it's something above and elevated. Instead of, we're all wild animals, so none of us have really any special credibility. Everything is just a construct. We can use it on a functional basis, but it's not absolute. It's our choice. We're free in nature. We're born free. We can do whatever we want. We can think anything. We're defined by our thought. We should hold everything accountable instead of blindly accepting it. So this glorification of human beings is actually a tool, again, to control them, because there's like all this lofty stuff like, the heart, the soul, this and that. That's all ways to control people's actions. You could argue like, in supposedly a positive way, but it's all things to control people, because if you just look at the inherent objective reality, now there's no basis to control them, right? You wouldn't be able to say that. There is no absolute, there is no God, there's none of that. So again, you're a wild animal, or your ancestor a wild animal, and then you have slightly greater intelligence, which is objectively, factually correct. That framing seems negative, or it's not even really framing. But again, it could be the ultimate freedom, because now you realize, oh, all these lofty things, it kind of explains everything, because that's how human history was rife with so much tragedy, because we're expecting us to be something other than animals. And again, I'm not saying animal with a negative connotation, that's how we associate it, but again, we're free in nature, and everything is just a construct to control us. There is no lofty higher standard. It's all just something could be more or less useful, but even that comes down to choice, right? Your preferences, you might be at peace, like I was saying with the pig in the mud. Like, maybe you're happier living out in nature in the woods and you sleep on the ground. Like, maybe that's fine. Like, so you can't fear and deny your inherent nature, or if you do, you're going to constantly struggle against it. And that's what it comes down to anyway. So you end up being controlled by it instead of aware of it, right? Like, oh, you'll deny the stimuli acme and say, oh no, it's you're gonna fall in love and it's meant to be in a soulmate. That's just a way to control you, because your inherent hedonistic tendency might be just to, whatever, unrestricted, uninhibited, just open relationships and stuff like that. So you pose a false absolute, but it's used to control you, because, and then you constantly struggle with it, so you can choose to do that if you want, but the inherent nature at least frees you to say, okay, marriage is a construct, single partner relationships are kind of a construct, so it can be functional for a family system, but you can choose it. So that animal element kind of actually frees you, because now you realize, again, everything is a construct, so you choose for yourself what you value and what you don't. Right? Instead of something lofty that preconceives something. So, because then you're always trying to attribute something, right? So you say, I find this top, some of these are pretty bad points, like the animal, like human beings are animals, and you'd think, oh, somehow that sounds like a bad thing, but it's not. It explains all their supposedly cruel behavior, or it explains, again, all the inconsistencies or whatever. So it explains everything, and it's the reality, and it doesn't come with any prerequisites to tell you like what to do or what not to do. It explains the way that people work, and then you can decide for yourself from there what you want to do. Right, but it doesn't come with any preconceived kind of framing to it. So I don't know why. That's weird. Yeah, that claim is odd, because, yeah, our ancestors were wild animals, and so now, what's the problem? Like, why is that a bad thing? We're animals, and we're trained and tamed by society, so you can choose which training to reject or which not to. That their very existence is so incredibly random that they lack purpose and struggle to make sense of a creator. Well, see, again, the problem with that is randomness implies some human-centric ego design, right? Like, random compared to what? Right? Random compared to some design that we would propose, right? So that's a very loaded claim. Everything is random, or like what wouldn't be random then? Like, oh, we're made in the image of God and everything revolves around us because we think we're so special, right? That wouldn't be random. So this notion, like, oh, nature is random, in the sense that, oh, it'll just, you could walk outside and get struck by a bolt of lightning. So is that random, or, oh, that's bad luck, but you're attaching an ego to it? Like, nature just operates on a cause and effect basis. So we try, it's not about random or not. We try to attach an intentionality to everything, which is not really how nature works, right? There's no intention, like, oh, God's sitting there and he planned for the dinosaurs to go extinct and this and that, right? Like, things are present and we can't explain the origin point, sure, but like, things are set in motion, so it doesn't mean that, again, random is a very loaded term. So I reject that premise, but like, everything is random, so they can't find a purpose or a meaning. So she has a bias even here, even though she seems like she's making some good points at the beginning. She has a bias that, oh, people aren't wild animals, even though they are objectively, because she's still trying to control you and tell you what to do, despite this being supposedly about the system that controls us and enslaves us, right? She's trying to enslave you in a lesser sense still, right? Whereas, again, objectivity would free you altogether. So people are wild animals, so you're free to do anything, and it would, again, make you question authority, because, oh, the people ruling you are wild animals too. They're nothing special. They're not anointed. And the same thing here, like, again, that everything is random and there's no sense of purpose, that would free you, because, right, that purpose is only necessary to cope with being controlled and told what to do or what not to do. Okay, there's no special meaning. Everything just is, and we are just animals, and it's a zero-sum existence, and it speaks for itself. So now, the only problem with that is, oh, that makes it harder to control people, because now they'll just do whatever they want. So you need that special meaning for people to bypass the critical thinking and be controlled, even though it's dependent, overextended, pretense, non-invasive self. Anyway, but what it means is that, you control people that way, and so that some of these are kind of inverse of actually what the topic is. It's the fact that, again, like, let me watch it again. Convince them the species used to be that of an animal. Their very existence is so incredibly random that they lack purpose and struggle to make sense of a creator. So again, this is where the zero-sum reality. We are animals, and there is no creator, and there is no special purpose or absolute. So therefore, you're free to do whatever we want. And what we choose to do, arguably choose, is to create laws and things like that, so that we don't run free as a wild animal. But that framing of random, that, like, again, what wouldn't be random? That everything has a rhyme and a reason and a design to it, that revolves around us, is very egocentric. So, like, a lack of purpose or a lack of meaning. Why do we need any special purpose or meaning? It would only be to justify the inhibition and control and restriction we experience, right? Otherwise, yes, there is no meaning. It's a zero-sum process. Even everything people ever do is reaction relief, as I talk about, right? The reaction relief of a zero-sum need. So, like, for all of our technology, all of our accomplishment, what has it really done? It's extended the human lifespan. So it takes something that's zero-sum and makes it last a little bit longer. It addresses our non-choice reactions and overcompensates. It's like, oh, we originally had to eat, like when we were in our earlier state of our species. We still have to eat, but it's just more comfortable. We have more food, or we have better tasting food, or more options of food. So it's the same zero-sum process. So for all our accomplishment, it's still the same zero-sum thing. There is no special meaning beyond that, right? We try to attach that in an egotistical way to gratify ourselves and cope with being controlled, but it's kind of ex post facto justification. In and of itself, inherently, there is no meaning to it. And the only reason why you desire meaning, again, is either from the ego or as a way to overcompensate for control, right? That you need meaning to be controlled and inhibited and told what not to do. Otherwise, okay, there is no meaning, so now you're free to do whatever you want in a zero-sum finite existence, and you wouldn't be restricted or inhibited, right? You would be fully let action speak for itself, results speak for itself. So again, it's a way to tame people, control people, again, as they're animals. Tell them that their kind is as smart. Wait, what? Their kind is as smart as they've ever been. Well, even she's contradicting herself now. You're saying, oh, we're wild animals or like our ancestors, but now you're saying we're smart. So this, I would say, my expression, like, that things are the way they are because that's the way they're meant to be. Like, oh, we're as smart as we've ever been, which is arguably maybe true collectively with our technology, but individually that doesn't necessarily apply, right? That just means we've accumulated more collective knowledge and technology. But like, oh yeah, we're as smart as we've ever been, so everything is like absolute, and again, things are the way they are because that's the way they're meant to be. So like, I'm really just saying some of the same things I always do, but provide them with idols of artificial beauty and use them as examples. What it is to look perfect, or just in general social engineering. They're never content, but it's their choice that they value it in the first place. It's kind of like they would instinctively react and be controlled by those things, but they wouldn't right? It's like the base of control. I would say, like, everything is projected with some sort of incentive. So if you don't have one, then it's projected as like the inability to achieve something, not that you don't have an incentive. Create an addictive digital platform, rank them by numbers. This one's kind of dumb too. Self-worth off the amount of followers. Like, that's kind of dumb because some people might think like that, but you could just be doing it as a form of expression. Like, you would write a diary, you would write a book, you would, do whatever. So you're making social media, and it's like, that doesn't have to validate it, right? Like, I'm doing something right now, I have 0 viewers, but that's not what it's about. Like, if what I'm doing is valuable or interesting, it's just a way to form of expression, like even what she's doing in this very video. So some of those were incredibly dumb, though. Again, human beings are animals, so therefore you should be skeptical of them, not trust them, not let them do unqualified empirical authority, right? Not false, absolute, lofty, whatever, empirical authority. And again, you also shouldn't allow the random framing that is egocentric, like, again, the creator and stuff like that. there'd just be so many contradictions is the problem. And on a practical, everyday basis, even if you said, okay, let me look at it this way. Okay, there was supposedly a creator and they created everything and they had a plan, but evidently they didn't do very well with their plan because they allow all these bad things to, supposedly, again, by our subjective standard of bad, but all these things to happen that they supposedly don't want to happen. So it comes down to us anyway. So on an everyday basis, like, okay, supposedly that creator did what they did and said what we should and shouldn't do, but allow us to do it anyway. So now let's ignore that, right? Even if you accept that as a premise, we know that this God is lazy or just doesn't care. So now we have to take care of it ourselves. We have to make laws. We have to uphold it ourselves and be vigilant. So it's no use. Even if you were saying there's some creator with a plan, the plan leads to our everyday lives, which we have control over, or we are subject to the control of others. So we have to, whether we do something to make something bad happen by our own subjective standard, or something good happen, or prevent something bad from happening, it comes down to us. So like, again, even if you accepted that creator thing, it wouldn't matter. Like, okay, on an everyday basis, you shouldn't care about it, and you should try to, focus on your actions and potential and what you do and make happen, because that's the only thing that actually matters, right? Whether you say, oh, it's because God gave us free will, or however you try to justify it. In other words, God doesn't matter. Even if you say there's a creation and a plan, it doesn't matter. On an everyday basis, you have to do it yourself, right? It's up to you. What you do, don't do, what you allow to happen, and kind of what religion acts as too is like a buffer for our potential. You have all this potential and you condemn some of it, and you try to cope with not achieving all of it. So you use that almost as a placeholder for not being your full free self. So that's kind of half and half of a video, where there's some very flawed claims that she makes in there. And then I think that might be it. Let me check this one thing, the stupidest story ever told, and then I'll look for that one thing, the AI. I'm not even going to react to this one full because it'll be too long, but just some of these things kind of trigger me because it means that basically, again, there's no special meaning to it, subversive, right? So everything that's going to happen or not happen is up to people anyway. So like now we're in the result, right? You can talk about the origin point and say, oh, this is supposedly what happened. How you would know that, or how anybody would know that, is itself very arrogant, because it's like, you weren't there. You didn't see it happen, so you're taking somebody else's word who also couldn't have been there. So yeah, you have to trace it back through subjective, flawed, human, whatever. Like a game of telephone, basically, historically. But, it's dumb because you do that again, special meaning. Okay, the stupidest story ever told by Miss Betty Bowers. Favorite story in the Bible. Old man called Noah. Murder, thou shalt not murder. For the sins of others. I like her delivery, but I don't really get what her point is. Noah built an ark after killing everybody. Or I have heard that, like, well, no, that could have been. He was 500 to 600 years old. Logic is a Satan's tool of Satan. I'm watching it on like 2 times speed. This is a pretty good video though. But I don't get it. Like, what is the... I thought this person is supposedly an actual Christian. So, America's best Christian. But how? So she's debunking Noah's Ark even on her own. I don't know. That was pretty good on its own. That... No, she's got some good acting skills almost. No, it took the ark. What was the other thing I was saying? Oh yeah, let me find the AI. The ark would only fly after the animals drowned, like, so there wasn't any water that he could have just gone to Australia like we think of today in a normal way, or like why would he even do that, or like even what sense does that make? Because you're assuming that every animal on the planet was there. So whatever animals they list, you could easily debunk and say, well, what about all these other animals that exist that weren't on the ark, right? It would have been impossible. Or you would say that evolution happens after that in a shorter period of time. That, whatever. Okay. Like, AI explains how the devil would control society or do something. Asking ChatGPT about the devil. If you were the devil... I wouldn't waste my time... I don't know if this is the same one. It might be. I wouldn't waste my time trying to get you to worship me. This is like what AI is saying as the devil. Waste my time trying to get you to worship me? No, I'd just convince you not to worship God at all. But then you'd be more your free natural self, and that's what we condemn. And that, again, is false framing. I tell you the truth is relative. Your truth, my truth. Until nobody knows which way is up, I'd whisper, as long as you're happy, it's right. But see, the problem with that is your truth, my truth is like... Truth is objective, but the subjective claims we make are not truth, right? That's the problem. Is like, oh, this is right, this is wrong. I guess this is the problem with human psychology. It's easier for people to cope with something if they just they don't have to think about it, right? Because then if they think about it, then that poses problems for them because it's not absolute. So then it just becomes a matter of ability. Is your structure good enough to stop people from doing something? Are you good enough to get away with doing something? There really is no deeper meaning than that. That's why we need laws, accountability, whatever. But the problem is, right, truth would be something objective that isn't affected by human action, or you could argue that, like, sometimes, like, the fact that you need to breathe oxygen, but then people say, oh, what if you use like a tank, oxygen tank, or something else, right, some technology. But the point is you're still addressing that need, right? And so that would be something objective that we need to do that, or like something objective in science. It wouldn't be up for debate or subjective interpretation. Whereas like, oh, a person should do this or shouldn't do that. Those are subjective, even if we agree as a society, even if we find that useful. That's why we make those laws. But that I find, I tell you, truth is relative, your truth, my truth, even though I'd keep you busy, too busy for prayer, too busy for church. And you're attributing so much of this to again, like, oh, it would be Satan doing it, not, like, it's your choice. You don't have to, whatever, too busy for church, too busy to ask eternal questions, even though, again, objective thought is something a bad thing too. I'd fill your hands with a phone, so you'd never have time to fold them in prayer. What if you're using the phone to read the Bible? What if you're using the phone to pray? What if you're using it to open your mind and watch a video like this? Or, it's just... You're scapegoating the wrong thing. Whatever. I'd break families, get fathers absent. But again, that's their choice. Marriage is bitter. That's your choice. And kids confused. If I can fracture the home, I can fracture the future. I don't know if this is the same one that I saw, but... So this is so lofty and stupid. I divide the church which again, the church divided itself because there's Protestants and this and that. Petty arguments even this preconceives the church over a temple or over other religions too. There's always some bias in there. Petty arguments, comparison, offense, celebrity culture. If I can get Christians fighting each other, they'll never fight me. I desensitize you, even though desensitization could just be having more standards, more options, more everything, higher standards, versus settling for something that's near and as postulate. I'd glamorize sin in movies, normalize it in music, laugh at it in comedy, but humor is nothing more than cognitive dissonance, as I always say, so it's kind of a form of contrivance response. And celebrate in culture until what once shocked you now entertains you, but the form of shocking is still a form of social engineering. Like, it's just part of our inherent nature, and therefore again, it's a duality of response. We condemn it to discourage people from doing it, and then all these things are like a response to that. Well, we don't do it then because we've condemned it or we minimize it, but then we crave it kind of as an overcompensation in fiction. So could that be a positive thing? Like, it's an outlet. It's not that it's desensitizing us, it's serving as a placeholder for us wanting to do it, right? It kind of relieves that a little bit, or that's why it appeals to us in the first place. I honestly don't know what shocked you, entertains you, so just more experiences. Elon Musk 11 years ago, we're summoning the demon with an AI, even though that changed up real quick. There was another clip. The devil, oh yeah, here. Hey, ChatGPT, is it going to be exactly the same? How would you destroy men in the 21st century? Destroy men in the 21st century. I'd start by removing their sense of purpose. I'd make them comfortable with mediocrity. I'd drown them in distractions, video games, endless scrolling, mindless entertainment, until years slip by. Why they never built anything meaningful. Problem with that is those things are kind of a reaction to already being controlled by people, right? So you're forced to defer to unqualified empirical authority, and then they blame you for reacting by folly favoritism. I'd distort masculinity itself. I'd make strength seem toxic. This is like my anti-virtue. Leadership oppressive. Responsibility a burden. Make men ashamed of being men. But see, that's kind of, you're playing into the gender identity too much. Promote pleasure over progress. Chase dopamine hits. See, this is the problem, though. The framing of that, like, if real relationships are better than porn, then why would porn be a threat to them? Or why would people prefer them, right? That's the same thing, like social interaction versus folly favoritism. If it's really better, then why should it be a threat? But junk food, like, as if just being exposed to it is bad, not that you should be able to be exposed to everything equally and then decide. Instead of health, short-term gains, instead of long-term success, I'd make vice feel like freedom. But see, vice is freedom from the control that tells you not to do things, and then doesn't mean you should feel like discipline, feel like imprisonment. I'd sever them from faith. I'd make them believe that religion is outdated, that submission to God is weakness. Well, it is weakness in the sense that if you're really in control of yourself, then you shouldn't need it, right? You can self-govern. Supposedly God gave you that potential. You have the ability to think for yourself, and so why do you need that? Just, do it without that. Why do you need it? I'd make them believe that religion is outdated. Submission to God is weakness. Morality is subjective. Oh, here we go, bro. Here we go. The morality is subjective. Okay, dude. Okay. I love the... It's like when people, again, talk about some atrocity in history. Well, it's not subjective. You're right. Your specific morality of this specific era in history, that would be hard for you to even define. Oh, it's laws. Laws are morality or something else, right? So you would have to explain, okay, what exactly is moral? And you realize, oh, it's different even today in different countries. So based on where you are geographically on the planet, morality is different, right? One country might have one law, the other country doesn't have that law. Different age where you can drink, or so what morality to? It's not only different in the present day, based on where you are, is different throughout history. It's different. Again, some atrocities throughout history which are like, well, it might have been immoral by our standard, but it's subjective because at the time they didn't believe that, or they did it anyway. So it doesn't stop it from happening. So hedonism until they believe life has no real meaning. beyond chasing the next high. But the whole irony of this is actually kind of backwards. Instead of, oh, you're chasing the next thing, it's like you're training yourself to be gratified in a half-mass state so you can be controlled by it. So you specify the conflict. You say, it's like, it'd be the same thing. Like, okay, you'll say stimuli acme. So what it means is either you do it right freely and openly, or you do it with one person. So you're still being controlled by the same process, right? It's not elevated. It's a different form of the same thing, a lesser form of the same thing. Because a man with no tribe, no purpose, no faith is the easiest to control, which that line makes no sense because, oh, really? So somebody out on an island by themselves, fending for themselves, is the easiest to control? No, people in a tribe are the easiest to control because you turn them against each other or whatever, right? Like you make them associate their identity with the contrived state. So no, that statement is actually totally bogus. Beyond chasing their next high, I'd keep them alone, weak and vulnerable. As a man with no tribe, no purpose, no faith is the easiest to control. That would be actually the opposite. They're the hardest to control because they're not tethered to anything. They can do whatever they want. Bro just shakes his head emotionally at it the whole time. So yeah, they have some mistaken parts to them, but it's too bad because you're so insular that you don't realize what you're actually saying sometimes. Right, I don't think people get it, but it shows you that dissonance that people have, right? If you're trying to say something really meaningful, you can't do it, or it'll be censored, or it'll be negatively reacted to. So you got to put the buffer of fiction. Oh, now you'll take it serious. Now you'll value it in fiction, because there's no burden of consequence. It's the same sort of thing. It's like, it's not absolute, but you want to pretend it is, so you don't have to think about it. So you just turn off your critical thinking. That same mind that defines us as people in the first place, that separates us from animals. So again, that definition, much more free here.